Why would we ever pay people who are, quote, unwilling to work?
We never would, right? And AOC has never said anything like that, right? I think you're referring to some sort of document that some doctored document that somebody other than us has been circulating.
Oh, I thought that came right from her. That was in the background or from her office, is my understanding.
No. She's actually tweeted it out to laugh at it. If you look at her latest tweets, it seems that apparently some Republicans have put it out there.
Talk about a misstatement that was. An advisor to Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez forced to walk back all of that after claiming that the original Green New Deal document, the document that kind of explained it, he said it was a fake. And despite its rocky rollout, a number of 2020 Democrats are standing by this proposal. What message does that send to voters here for 2 years from now, or a year from now? Here now to react is a fellow in energy and environmental policy at the Heritage Foundation, Nick Loris. Nick, thanks for coming on this morning. So a lot of the 2020 contenders jumping on this thing. This is the typical, race to the fringe because you want to win the primary, so you got to get as left as you can. What do you think about their glowing support of this bill?
Yeah, it's perplexing given the lack of policy details. All we know is really that it's about government control and virtue signaling, and that's what these candidates want to do. It doesn't matter if the plan is deeply unserious, if there's really no context in the plan. You have people throwing their weight behind it, and I think they're going to regret it given the fact that the response was so unpopular, and given the fact that there was so much in the resolution itself that would cause economic destruction to the economy, not just the energy sector, but all sectors of the economy. And people were really taken aback by how aggressive the policy proposal was. And really that led to it being so unserious that people were laughing at it, but not for the reasons that AOC was talking about. Right.
And let me just clarify, it's not a bill. It's just a resolution at this point. It's got some work to be done until then. But, I mean, when you look at the details of what they want, for a leftist society, it almost sounds even more idyllic than anyone could even imagine. I mean, you're talking about completely reversing so many of the ways that we do business in this country and our industry, taking away combustible engines, burning any kind of fossil fuel in a very short period of time. The expense of this would be absolutely tremendous. I mean, there's no way to even, I don't think, comprehend how much implementing this would cost.
Yeah, because it's so unserious and so pie in the sky, it really is difficult to credibly account for the cost of it. But we're talking about trillions of dollars. And as the president mentioned in his State of the Union, oil and gas, we're now the world's leader. And this resolution, if it were somehow put into legislative text and implemented, it would decimate that industry. But all of those other industries that are energy-consuming industries, the manufacturing base that uses a lot of energy, all decimated as a result of these policy proposals. And for what? Even if all of these proposals were somehow implemented and we went back to the Stone Age economically, you're talking about mitigating global temperatures a few tenths of a degree Celsius by the turn of the century.
Well, the goal of it, I guess, is honorable. But, yeah, you would destroy the economy, but then they're saying a guaranteed job for every American through the government. Let's go back to the initial issue with this, which was the unwilling to work. Pay people who are unwilling to work in this country. It scared a lot of people. They denied it at first, then they had to own it. Here's the chief of staff for AOC. There separately is a doctored frequently asked questions floating around in an early draft of a frequently asked question that was clearly unfinished and that doesn't represent the Green New Deal resolution. Got published to the website by mistake. Idea was to wait for launch, monitor questions, and rewrite that FAQ before publishing. So they're trying to kind of get around this, but it kind of shows you where the ideology is, though. I mean, if they really at some point were thinking, we're going to pay everybody in this country, working or not working, a guaranteed job, guaranteed medical care, no more planes, high-speed rails everywhere. Every building is going to get renovated. It's just tremendously aggressive.
It is. It's big expansion of government and big expansion of control. And the other really surprising but unsurprising part of that proposal is if they were concerned about climate change and thought that we needed to do something in 12 years or the world is going to face catastrophic warming, you would think you would want nuclear power, which is the largest source of emissions-free energy, but it says, nah, we're not going to build any new nuclear plants. Don't worry about that. We'll just do it all through renewables. So it's very hypocritical. And again, this wish list is just something that would result in so much control over everyday lives of Americans.
Well, I mean, there are issues issues. I mean, there's obviously climate change issues. I think that a lot of people do believe that. But when the government gets involved, I mean, remember what happened with Solyndra Fisker in the Obama years. It's typically not the best way to go about it. Thank you, sir, very much for your time. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Brian Mudd, West Palm Beach, Florida. Analysis and insight, I guess I should say, my friend. Good to see you. It may be aspirational, as David just pointed out, but on the other hand, you have almost every 2020 presidential candidate having to answer for it. Go ahead and take a look at the list of 2020 hopefuls who have supported the Green New Deal. And it brings up an important question as we look at that list. Kimberly Strassel of the Wall Street Journal calls Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Green New Deal the Republican Party's secret weapon for 2020. You agree?
Well, what it really is environmental socialism. And it's very easy to poke holes in something that, first and foremost, we don't know exactly what it is. It was actually a good update that we actually have a draft now that I guess they're sticking to, because I was waiting for AOC to pull a Nancy Pelosi and say, well, we're going to have to pass this to find out what's in it, a la the Affordable Care Act. I mean, so that's the first thing, is you kind of have to know what your plan is before you can advocate for it. But in terms of a secret weapon, there are a couple things in your report that are instructive. We do, Tim Ryan is wrong, we do have wage growth. It was true that under the 1.8% Obama economy, we did not have good wage growth. We didn't see people getting ahead. But millennial adults, right now, we have this out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics information, they're earning about $10,000 more than their parents were at the same age, adjusted for inflation. In fact, the quality of life right now is better than ever before.
I keep hearing these data points on wage growth and how great the economy is from you, from Republicans, from Team Trump, etc. Yet every Democratic candidate you listen to in their rollout, and we wait for Amy Klobuchar's rollout here in less than an hour or so, all talk about how terrible the economy is, how awful the inequality is, how people just can't get ahead, etc. They wouldn't be saying that if they didn't think it's true. So are Republicans have a blind spot here to a number of Americans who are really hurting?
As I like to say, there are two sides to stories and one side to facts, and we do have the facts of the information. 3.2% wage growth year over year, and through a combination of increased hours worked, the average American's earning over 5% more than this time last year. But that being said, obviously there are people that are still struggling to get ahead, and obviously that is the battle in the Democratic Party. What I think is going on, Leland, when you're talking about 2020, we saw it here in Florida. We had a very crowded playing field for Democrats in the gubernatorial primary, and what happened is a lot of the establishment candidates knocked themselves off, and it made way for this new kind of socialist, the Bernie Sanders candidate, Andrew Gillum, who only won with Democrats with 34% of the vote.
He got really close, though, in the general.
He did. He absolutely did. And I think that is the real situation here. I think you see many of these Democratic hopefuls realizing, hey, I might only have to win 30% of the Democratic support in order to be able to win in the primary and playing to those constituencies.
I want to get back to what you said about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in terms of trying to figure out what she's for, what she's against. Listen to her about the Green New Deal. These two sound bites less than 24 hours apart, then we'll get your reaction.
Are you prepared to put on the table that, yes, actually, they're right. What this requires is massive government intervention?
It does. It does. Yeah, I have no problem saying that. Why? Because we have tried their approach for 40 years. For 40 years, we tried to let the private sector take care of it.
One way that the right does try to mischaracterize what we're doing as though it's like some kind of massive government takeover. Obviously, what we're trying to do is, well, obviously it's not that.
Square those, or do we have to?
Well, look, and that's all part of the problem she has, as she's trying to figure out what her own policy is. But what I would tell you, Leland, and this is the opportunity, capitalism really is the answer, right? Government didn't give you your smartphone that you love or whatever piece of technology you love, but here is, environmentalism should not be a political issue.
Wasn't that what President Obama said, something along the lines of, if you built a company, it wasn't yours to build? So I'm trying to remember the exact line.
Yes.
Yeah.
You didn't build it.
You
had help. You had help. And what I would say is that when you take a look, here's the great irony of our economy and technology and capitalism actually improving the economy. We have 20% more efficiency per capita per person than just 10 years ago. And literally every day that an appliance dies in somebody's home, we become more energy efficient. It's true.
I feel like I'm in math class with all the statistics you have. I got to go write them down and crunch the numbers. We'll talk to you soon, my friend. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks,
all right.
Leland.
Well informed as always.